All right, we are back here, continuing football month on the podcast. College football starting up in a few weeks here, and joining me to help us get ready for the new season, great friend of the podcast. He covers the sport for the Sporting News. Bill Bender is back with us. Bill, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on here. I got to say, I'm usually not in the college football mood by this point. I'm still kind of trying to get through the summer, but I've been watching that Netflix docuseries they put about the SEC this year. It's got me in the mood. I feel like there's going to be a lot of fun this year in college football.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I have it on the queue. The season keeps starting earlier and earlier. I mean, week 0 is almost here. We had the AP preseason poll move Monday, obviously. And, I'm excited, too. I mean, there's plenty of good stories to tell, plenty of new stories to tell. And, for all the changes off the field, the on-the-field product's still pretty good.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the AP Top 25 poll came out today on day of recording here, and obviously a lot to take away from it. Texas, preseason number 1, just like the coaches poll. Penn State over Ohio State is interesting. We got 10 SEC teams in the poll. What's your first reactions to what we got from the poll?
Well, kind of, the Penn State-Ohio State thing jumps out, and where I'm at, Central Ohio, and I would put Ohio State too, but I understand the logic of putting Penn State there. Katron Allen, Drew Allen, Nick Singleton, a loaded team coming back, right? So I think still they haven't beat Ohio State since 2016. And, I had a feeling this would happen today, judging off the Big Ten pool earlier this summer where they had Penn State ahead of Ohio State. It's a little surprising for me, but perhaps I have to, take off my I'm in the Ohio State bubble, as you know, living in Columbus.
Yeah, you certainly are here. I do feel though, that Ohio State will definitely point to that poll as a sign of disrespect, use that as motivation for them throughout the season.
Yeah, that, and, it sneaks up on you that, they haven't won a Big Ten championship since 2020, which in Columbus, they won the national title. So I don't know that they're that worried about it, but it is part of the story. The losses to Michigan, watching Oregon win the Big Ten. They're probably the most slept-on team in the Big Ten right now because of what they have coming back around Dante Moore. So, and then, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, that second tier is really interesting. I think the Big Ten is very strong with its top 6, 7 teams, and, we'll see how they do.
Yeah, for sure. Here, let's start number 1 with Texas here, and obviously they made the playoff last year, gave Ohio State a run for their money late in the bracket before they end up losing here, and hopes are high for them year 1 of the Arch Manning era here. So, what are you looking here for Texas and for him specifically?
Well, I don't know how he meets the hype, right? That hype is going to be unheard of. We haven't had a Manning in college football since 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So I think the excitement level is pretty high for the generation that didn't watch Eli and Peyton play. And I don't know if he can live up to that. I think he's going to be really good, though. I do. And when I say he can't live up to that, it's impossible, right? The standards that we're setting for him. But I do think he's going to be really good with what Texas has coming back, especially on the perimeter, how they respond to losing 4 offensive linemen, up front. That's going to be huge. And if they can do that, but I'll tell you, Mike, if they go to Ohio State and win in week 1, there will be no mechanism to control the hype. It will be impossible.
Yeah, I think Archie Manning, did a good job here trying to diffuse a little bit about sort of throwing cold water on the NFL people saying, hey, Archie's going to be here for 2 years. So, I think that does kind of ease the pressure on him a little bit. And for everybody saying, oh, number 1 pick in 26, now he can sort of say, you know what, not ready to leave yet.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. A lot of people might be taken back by that. But to me, it's, they have the history. Peyton played 4 years in college. Eli played 5. And I think, for Arch, the stat that I've been pointing to the entirety of the offseason is since Peyton was taken number 1 in 1998, there's only been 2 quarterbacks taken number 1 that started for 1 year in the Power 4, I guess. It would be Cam Newton and Kyler Murray. And both, obviously, Cam went on to a remarkable career. Kyler's still doing his thing with the Cardinals. So it wouldn't surprise me if, A, he did play 2 years in college, and B, we didn't see, kind of like you hinted at, that we didn't see the best out of Arch Manning until year 2 at Texas.
Yeah, that's true here. Let's go to Ohio State, who they're going to play pretty soon here. And reigning national champions here, lost a lot of NFL talent, have more NFL talent in the pipeline here. I feel like for a defending champ, it'd be as high as they are. I feel like there's not a ton of hype on Ohio State right now, which is very interesting.
There's still a lot. I mean, well, again, I live here, but I mean, when it's around Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, those are arguably the two best players in college football. They did lose a lot to the NFL draft. There's a lot of talk around here about Matt Patricia, new defensive coordinator. How is he going to respond? They just hired Boyer, the old Miami coordinator. So they're not short on coaching talent either. I think it's a really interesting season for Ohio State because, yes, they did win the national title, but there's still that yeah, but. And the yeah, but we all know what it is. They did lose to Michigan and have to break that 4-game losing streak to the Wolverines. So it's going to hang over them probably until November 29th. And it does. But I do think there's a lot of pressure off Ryan Day. Maybe that's the reason that we're not talking about them quite as much. I would argue that the top 5 team that we're talking least about is probably Georgia. You know, and Georgia won the SEC last year, so that's kind of puzzling to me.
Yeah, it is here, and you brought the SEC up here. Like I say, here, 10 teams in the top 25 here, led by Texas and Georgia here. Like, there's a lot of like talent here. Like how you feel this league's gonna shake out? 'Cause I feel like this feels like a league where they could easily get like 4 playoff teams if the math works out right. Who beats who?
Well, so there's a couple parts to that, right? Like if Notre Dame makes the playoff, in most years, I think how this is going to work is Group of 5 makes it. If Notre Dame makes it, Big 12 or ACC will get 2, and the other one will get 1, and that leaves 7 spots. So I think what could easily happen this year is, you know, maybe the Big 10 gets 3 and the SEC gets 4. And we're going to do exactly what we did last November, where we complain about who's in and strength of schedule and all those things. That's going to happen. That's not going away. And I think that's actually kind of, it got unhealthy last year to me because we did spend that entire first weekend basically grading teams on, well, Alabama or Ole Miss wouldn't have lost by that much. So, you know, I still think you got to earn your spot, but I think on any given year, the SEC and the Big Ten in this format are probably going to combine for 7 teams out of the 12.
Yeah, so like how you feel the SEC stacks up this year? You feel like that, you know, like there's that separation between like the teams like at the top, like Texas and Georgia from the rest of the league. You feel like there's somebody can just break through and get in that playoff mix in the SEC.
Well, you know, Texas, the top 4, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, all top 10 teams. I mean, all question marks in their own way. I think 3 of those 4 teams have new starters at quarterback. LSU doesn't, and Garrett Nussmeier's been a little banged up in fall camp. So, I mean, that's one. And then the rest of those teams, 5 through 10, a lot of really quality teams also with question marks. Like, can South Carolina finally break through? What's Oklahoma going to look like with John Mateer? I mean, those are very real questions that are going to determine this SEC race. Florida, is DJ Lagway going to be all right? I think they do have the most quality, competitive depth of all the conferences, and we'll see, how that continues.
Yeah, we'll see how that continues here. You mentioned the Big Ten, too, probably going to be right there, jockeying them for a number of bids here. You got the Penn State, Ohio State thing you talked about already here. A lot of interesting teams inside that top 25 as well. You got Illinois and up there, first time in a while. Michigan back in after trying to make a leap again after Harbaugh left for the Chargers last year. A couple of other interesting teams here. Year 2 with Indiana with Cignetti. So, like, how do you feel like the Big Ten stacks up?
Well, in those tiers that you mentioned, I mean, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, that's the first tier. And then that second tier is probably more interesting. It's Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. Which one of those 3 teams maybe tries to pop in there? I think Michigan will be better with Bryce Underwood at quarterback. I don't know what to completely expect. Something in the neighborhood I've been saying all along, maybe something like Dylan Raiola last year at Nebraska, 5-star freshman. I don't know about Michigan's receivers. Illinois, 10 wins last year, a lot coming back and the schedule's favorable. But they do have to play Indiana early in the season, and Indiana's going to be pretty good. And then there's that third tier that has, what are we looking at? USC, Iowa, Nebraska. Can one of those teams squeeze up into the next tier of the Big Ten? And if they can, that would certainly alter that race. I mean, then when you have, they don't have 10 ranked teams, but I think they have 9 quality teams that I just listed that are all capable of making the playoffs.
Yeah, it's true here. Go ACC too. Obviously here, Clemson and Miami, the heavy favorites in that league. You know, SMU is lurking. They made the playoff last year. So, how do you feel about the ACC?
Well, I mean, Clemson bloated. I mean, that's one. A lot of first-round talent there. Cade Klubnik, T.J. Parker, Peter Woods, Antonio Williams, all potential first-round picks. They have a lot riding on that opener against LSU, but I still think they're the best team in the ACC anyway. You know, SMU, Miami looking to move up a little bit. Miami was right on the cusp of the playoff last year. Now they have Carson Beck at quarterback. I think that's a really intriguing storyline. And then you get into what's Georgia Tech going to look like with Haynes King? And they play a big opener against Colorado as well. So all of those things are on the table, and all of those are going to be really interesting storylines as we get into the season.
Yeah, and you talk about the Big 12 sort of being the league that you think is probably, I think, jockey the AC for whether it's one or two spots in the playoff here. And they're the one power conference that's not a team in the top 10. They have Arizona State up there, K-State doing well. So, like, in the polls, Iowa State, like, I feel like this could be the league where there's a lot of chaos. Am I wrong in that take?
No, not at all. As Brett Yormark said at Big 12 Media Days, is that I believe the stat was something to the effect of they had the most fourth quarter lead changes and the most last minute scores to go ahead in games. And when you have that parity. It's actually, I guess, a contradiction of sorts that you have the parity and everybody has a chance to win mentality in the conference, and yet you're probably the conference most likely to have just one playoff team. So that makes it tough. I mean, I've always looked that way at as you know, I'm a MAC grad, I'm an American Conference grad, and that's kind of how the MAC is. You know, that you'll have a lot of parity between the teams, but it's hard. It's really hard to go undefeated in the MAC. That's why I think, at least since the playoff era started, pretty sure I'd have to go look this up. I'm pretty certain Western Michigan's the only team that didn't lose in the regular season, or they may have lost just one.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what happens there here. And Notre Dame sort of wrap up the big contenders here. Like they're 6 in the AP poll preseason. Like I see a lot of talent there, and like with them, you always look at the schedule because of their independent status here. I mean, you look at like. I feel like the Miami, Texas A&M game start of the season. I feel like if Notre Dame can get at least one of those and do well against the rest of their schedule, they're in a good spot to sort of make the playoff again.
Yeah, and the roster's really tough. They've got better receivers. Jeremiah Love is going to be among the Heisman contenders. C.J. Carr should have a monster year, hopefully. If they have that on top of what they have defensively, Drake Bowen. Leonard Moore made our preseason All-American team. I'm blanking on him for a second there. I shouldn't. He's really good. So the first 2 weeks are super important. Like they play Miami and Texas A&M. Can they win both of those games? If you lose both of those games, they're in trouble. So they really got to get off to a fast start. I do like what Marcus Freeman's done. I think the talent there to make another run to the national championship, a deep playoff run, is certainly there. But it's really going to hinge on that September, which makes it so, high stakes for the Irish early in the season.
Yeah, I would agree with that here. And obviously, we have this 12-team playoff era now. Like, I think the interesting thing here is that, like, last year, I think we could have given you, like, 25 guesses. You would not have pegged Indiana as a playoff team. Is there somebody, like, we're not talking about right now, you think could be a sleeper to sneak into the playoff?
I mean, you could have gave me 50 on Indiana. I probably would have. I mean, that might have taken a minute, right? But that's a great question, and I'm not dodging it, but I'm just trying to think of, like, it would probably be one of those Big 12 teams that comes off the wall, and you're like, man, how did Oklahoma State bounce back? Something like that would be shocking. I think out of the ACC, though, do we see Georgia Tech coming? I mentioned them. The other, and we have to mention, even though I don't know what they'll do, is North Carolina. How good are they going to be around Bill Belichick and all the transfers that they have and everything that he's bringing to the program? The interest level is going to be super high in that opener against TCU, which is another team that fits the description of your question, especially with Josh Hoover at quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, we also live in the world now of the transfers and like a lot of big player movement in the offseason here. Like, of the faces in new places, who do you think make the biggest impact on new schools?
I think Carson Beck's a really interesting player this year. I was around him a little bit at ACC kickoff. no ill intent or bad feelings about Georgia, just focused on what he needs to do at Miami. He could be really good this year. And, I don't think that he's going to put up Cam Ward numbers, but, Mario Cristobal really likes him. So above the transfer quarterbacks, I think he definitely is that guy. Other than that, obviously there's some other transfer quarterbacks out there. Mark Gronowski at Iowa stands out. He's played a lot of high-level football at the FCS, and we know Iowa hasn't been able to throw the ball the last couple of years. So if Mark Gronowski is able to change that a little bit, it makes the Hawkeyes interesting. I don't think I don't think they were ranked today. I think they were close. With him, they become an interesting top 25 type team, maybe even a team that can push into that second tier in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they are not ranked coming into the season. Definitely a good spot to look out for there. In terms of the Heisman here, I feel like the preseason, all the hype is on Arch Manning, which I do feel like is a bit much, considering like he's barely played collegiately. But who are some people you have your eye on potential Heisman contenders? I would assume Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State's probably way up the list.
For sure. Jeremiah Love, another one. You look at what he was able to do last year and not a full workload, and he could have a monster year for them. I think the quarterbacks, Lenore Sellers at South Carolina, a lot of hype around him. Probably able to put up some huge numbers for the Gamecocks. Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik threw for 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions last year. And if he plays well in that LSU game right off the go, primetime week 1, that gives you that little Heisman bump that you sometimes need, that Travis Hunter was able to take advantage of, certainly the last season, and even on some level this season before that. So, those are the names that stand out off the go, but it's going to be pretty wide open with those SEC quarterbacks, because I think any one of them could take control of that race.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to touch on here is obviously the early non-conference schedule, because I know in past years a lot of these big teams are sort of scheduled like cupcakes or the bye games. We're not going to go too hard, but it's crazy. I'm looking at the week 1 schedule. The big noon Saturday on Fox, starting off with Texas, Ohio State, basically kicked the season off in full swing, and there's a lot of great games week 1. What are you most looking forward to in these first couple weeks of the season besides that Texas Ohio State game?
Just week 1, all right. Week 0, it will be fun with Iowa State, Kansas State. That's a ranked matchup right up the go. That'll get us all going. Really excited for week 1, which it doesn't stop. I think the best part about that week 1 is, think about it. Friday night, Georgia Tech, Colorado. Saturday night, Clemson, LSU. After Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Florida State. These are great games. Notre Dame, Miami, standalone game. Virginia Tech, South Carolina before that. And then you get into Monday, where it's Bill Belichick's debut. It's as, you and I have talked about this over the years. It's as loaded a week 1 since I've started talking to you as I can remember. I know there were a couple early in the playoff era, 14, 15 type mega week 1s, and that's how this one feels.
It does feel sort of like the basketball, where I want to make a statement early on, and I hope this continues. I think it's great for the sport. We're getting these big games, non-conference early.
Absolutely, and I think that will continue. With the super conferences that we have, they're not super conferences yet, but you get what I'm saying. An 18-team Big Ten, you want to have that one game you can latch onto, especially if you have a couple losses in conference play. Same in the SEC. So I don't mind Texas and Ohio State stepping out and playing that game at all. It's 1 versus 3. Some would argue it should be 1 versus 2, which would have been really cool. But it's one of the best openers of all time.
Yeah. Certainly is. I cannot wait for the season to start, Bill. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. If you want to follow you on social media, keep up with your coverage. How can they do that?
Yeah, I'm at BillBender92 and sportingnews.com, and I'm super excited to get going. I know we'll check in a couple times during the year. Just give me a call anytime, and appreciate your listeners. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Bill. Enjoy the season.
I will.